Welcome to Empowering the Next Generation podcast. I am Helen Veru. This podcast is dedicated to help anyone connected to preteens and teens to give them tools, empower and inspire teachers, high school senior leaders, and parents to build the future leaders of tomorrow. We discuss about controversial and relevant topics related to the world of education, the main problems you are facing, and solutions to help you navigate your journey. We want to make a positive change in education by bringing on experts that will give you a different perspective on how you can solve the hardship you are facing today. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Empowering the Next Generation. With me again, Coach Helen. I'm so pleased you're here with us. Make sure that you like, you comment, you share, because we are here to help you ignite your school community, develop leaders, and also create meaningful connections. If you want to grow in your entrepreneurial journey, like the expert that I have on my podcast, I would encourage you to click on the link in the description section to join my free masterclass from Educator to CEO. And I see you in there. So thank you so much for joining, everyone. Today, we have an amazing guest speaker. Again, you know that I bring experts that will share with you their heart and their message to you. So we have Dr. Chris Jochum. Jochum, not Jochum, Jochum. He's the founder and CEO of CJ Leadership Solutions, where he serves as an author, a speaker, a trainer, a podcast host. He's primarily working with K-12 districts, higher education, and private industry. He's also a former K-12 teacher and current university professor and administrator. He is passionate about improving organizations and the lives of those within them. So through his leadership development. So today we are going to talk about the teacher leader. So welcome, Chris, on board.
Helen, thank you so much. Very pleased to be a part of this and really looking forward to our conversation today.
Yes, I want it to be authentic. I want people to hear what you have to say because I feel it's so important to that people hear people like you who are experts, who worked in education for years, and now they have something powerful to share with them. So let's dive in the conversation, the interview today. I want it to be natural and to flow. Okay, so you've worked across K-12, higher education and leadership development through CJ Leadership Solutions. So when you think about teacher leadership, how do you define it and why does it matter more now than ever?
Well, thank you for the question and for prefacing it that way. I define teacher leadership a couple ways. But the first way is it does not require a title. So the first is, I think it's important to start with what it isn't. It isn't necessarily being the principal, the assistant principal, the dean of students. They are leading, and those are teacher leaders. But teacher leadership, and there's 40 years of research if you want to dig into formal definitions, but essentially, a teacher leader is somebody who understands and uses their, in many ways, natural and acquired influence to serve the entire school community. So not only within the four walls of their classroom, which is important, but if you think of that as like the center of the bullseye, one step out is how can they serve and lead their colleagues? How can they serve and lead their district and their community? So that is in a maybe 30,000 foot view, Helen, how I define teacher leadership is its influence, as you know, because of some of our background, we're both John Maxwell fans, but it's using their influence to serve the entire school community.
I totally agree with you. And I feel that when you have never heard the message of leadership, you realize that leadership is only a position. And I feel like leadership is an everyday a decision. And when you realize that you are a leader, it's just a mindset shift. And I think that most people, most educators needs to hear this message that it's not just a position, it's who you are, is where your heart leads you, and is actually embracing your true identity. So, and I feel that that's a lot of conversation around teacher leadership, but also I feel that there are some confusion about it. So, what are some the biggest misconceptions schools or leaders have about what teacher leadership really is?
Well, I think the biggest misconception, and I do understand it, is in a profession that is very busy, that has many outside influences, the biggest misconception is this is just one more thing, right? This is just one more thing on our already full plate, on our full in-service agenda, all of the things. And obviously I'm passionate about it, but I'm sincere when I say this. This is not one more thing.
Mhm.
And you hit the nail on the head, Helen, is leadership is who you are, and it's how you carry yourself and how you choose to interact with others. And so teacher leadership, if we want to use the plate analogy, okay, then what I say is just like an athlete must train, must eat properly, must exercise, because the core of who they are, the core of their body will improve. And that means, you know what, they don't get hurt. They have a longer career as an athlete. Well, that's akin to the plate that we all talk about, right? Is I don't want to overwhelm people, but there comes a time where we got to realize that we need a strong foundation. And so teacher leadership is not just one more thing, any more than asking an athlete to eat correctly is one more thing, or when your dentist tells you to floss once or twice a day. It's just something that we need to do because the payoff, in my mind, is great enough that it strengthens a whole community.
Totally, totally. And I feel that teacher leadership is a concept that should be actually encouraged a lot in schools, not just teacher leadership as well, but teacher coaching as well. I feel that they need that guidance the same way any other leaders in schools have these guidance. I think that teachers they need it even more because
Mhm.
sometimes they neglect their health, they neglect themselves because they have so much things to balance in their life.
Yeah.
And I think it's so necessary for them to hear that we care about them, that they have the power to, as you say, focus on the foundation of their leadership growth. And it only comes with them having more knowledge about leadership. And you can't change anything if you don't understand what are the foundation of leadership. I'm gonna ask you more personal questions. So why did you
Sure.
start this passion? Why did that passion start about teacher leadership? Because you wrote the book,
Yeah.
you talk about teacher, but why did you say, you know what, I need to write a book about teacher leadership? Where that passion come from?
Well, you talk about foundation. So I've been fortunate throughout my life to always have really strong teachers, coaches, all of those things. Like a lot of students, at least in the Midwest part of the United States, that when I even to this day say, why did you become a teacher? They had strong teachers, coaches, all of those things.
Mm,
So I've always been fortunate to have a strong foundation. I've always been really interested in leadership. Before we hit record, I back last century, as the young kids say, back in the late '90s, went to a Bible study expecting one thing, and they rolled out the TV and VCR and popped in John Maxwell, and I was hooked ever since. But first of all, Helen, I wrote a book for departmental chairs in higher ed about 5 years ago, because I realize that leadership is leadership. While the context matters, you're a leader first, and then the business, whether you're leading the widget factory or a bank, that's somewhat secondary. And if you want to talk, you said personal origin story. I know what it's like to put a for sale sign in my front yard and pack a U-Haul because of a bad leader. Um,
mm,
it's personal. And while everyone leads, there is that significant jump when you do get the title. And so many years ago, I promised myself that if I'm ever in that formal position, I may not always make people happy, But you know what? I don't want to be the type of leader that causes them to actually be at a point where they up and move their family, right? Because it
Mm,
happens. When I was writing my chair book a few years ago, I was asked to teach a special topics class for teachers at the college where I work. And I had always heard teacher leadership. And like a lot of teachers listening who have sat through in services and all of that, I was a little skeptical. But once I jumped into the lead to the literature, I realized what I believe it's Katzenmeyer and Moeller 2009 publication. They call it the sleeping giant in our school. And
mhm.
so I soon realized, and I almost felt kind of embarrassed that I had done all this leadership work and development. And I've spent my career either in or helping K-12, and I never, ever opened that teacher leadership door. It was there all the time,
Wow.
right? And so that's how I got into it. And I started teaching the class. And then the book actually was a result of the curriculum that I developed and the research that I had done. And so that's how it started. And I just, like anything that I do, if it can add value to people, give them some permission and perspective, help them in their personal and professional lives, then I think that's successful.
I love that. I love that. And it's so interesting how I don't think you were the first one to ever not think about bringing that teacher leadership into perspective in schools. I think there are tons and tons of principals who actually don't do that. And I love that you had that haha moment and you
Hmm.
realize, okay, I need to do something different. And now your with the difference you're bringing now is what you actually created. So this is just amazing. So for schools and districts that want to move beyond talk,
Yeah.
okay, and actually build teacher leadership, what are some practical ways they can intentionally support, develop, and empower teacher leaders?
Okay. First thing, and somewhat this is somewhat ironic because it's like anything that we have to change in our life. The people that might already be doing it don't necessarily need to hear the message, and the ones that aren't might not be listening for it. But
Wow.
it starts at the top, okay? Is the formalized leaders in a school. This is
Yes.
not something that you have to go to your school board and get money for. This is a daily decision on not only how are you going to behave, how are you going to set the culture, climate, and core values of the building and district, but more importantly, how are you going to, Helen, if I'm the principal and you're my fourth grade teacher, it's something as simple as saying, "Hey, Helen, I believe in what you can do. And you're welcome to come to me with questions and concerns. But you know what? I think I see more in you than you see right now. And so I'm going to start, our interactions are going to look this way because I'm doing my best to empower you to lead not only in your room, but also help us in the district because you're a strong part of our team, right? And that might sound simple, but it starts with the mindset of just like anything else, it's a culture decision, right? Culture is, what we allow, what we don't allow, how we do things, how we don't do things. It starts with a mindset of yes, we have an administrative team, but I promise you, it's not big enough, right? No, it's not big enough. And so the only way that we can truly affect every child in the district, because we can't be everywhere at once, is we need to empower those teachers who are on the ground floor, who are the most influential humans in the building.
Yeah.
Side note, if you're a principal listening, I should say every adult in the building, okay? Because God love them, the janitors and the maintenance staff, they interact just as much. They need to be a part of the dialogue. Helen, I don't want to talk too much because I'm passionate
N-
about it, but
No, but just
it
speak
starts
from
that
your
way.
heart. I think
Yeah.
it's
It
important.
it starts that way it starts with a mindset of this is what we're going to do. And if you're a principal listening, there are things that you didn't decide that you do, right? Like we need to raise reading scores. We need to make sure our retention rate is. We need to fill in the blank. If you're able to do things successfully that maybe you didn't want to do or didn't organically develop among your team, imagine what you could do when it is your idea.
Totally agree. Totally agree. And I feel this is something that is missing big time in education, that desire to really empower people. And I
Hmm.
feel this is what is missing. This is what I do the podcast. The podcast is about igniting, developing leaders, and creating meaningful connection. We
Hmm.
need to really focus on the person rather than performances and academic, because once you actually understand that when you empower the person, ultimately the culture is going to flourish. So I love your heart to make a difference and to be a servant leader. I hear a lot about servant leadership in what you're talking about, so I feel it's
100%.
all about the heart and
Yes.
where you are in your journey as well. So from your perspective,
Hmm.
as both a former K-12 teacher and you current professor and administrator, okay,
Hmm.
what's one mindset shift leaders need to make to truly unlock the potential of teacher leadership in their organization? I know you talked about mindset, but let's share one more thing apart from mindsets.
Well, and if I'm not answering this correctly, let me know. But you mentioned it is, part of my what I call my teacher leaders or servant leaders credo. The first thing is it's not about me. It starts with me, but it's not about me. And you have to understand we got to get over ourselves. And I'm guilty as charged. Don't get me wrong. Don't I tell people anything that I write about or speak about, I probably did it wrong and had to learn how to do it right. But the first mindset, a major mindset shift is to realize this isn't about me, and it might start with me, and I can't, even if I am the greatest in whatever I'm doing, I can't do it by myself. And you know, I never want to be the smartest person in a room. I really don't, because at the end of the day, we're just as successful, and I don't have to work as hard. So that's what I would say, and I don't know if that answers it, Helen, but
It
is
does.
you got to have this servant mindset, and it's hard because we're human, and sometimes the human tendencies get in the way, and that's okay. But it's just this reminder of, hey, it's not about me. I'm here to serve. Yes, most days there's going to be a I deserve, but I daily remind myself, hey, I'm here to serve. I signed up for this,
Yeah,
and I think that's important.
very important. And let's get into the last word of inspiration right now.
Mhm.
Any teacher leader listening to us right now, what would you tell them? What would you say to them to really grow in their leadership skill as a teacher?
I would tell them two things mainly. One, you do not realize, no matter even on your hardest day, okay, compared to most other humans in the world, you are so uniquely prepared and qualified to do the job you're doing. Okay, two things can be true. Yes, it's very hard, but statistically speaking, you are so qualified to do it. Okay, the best in whatever business still have to work hard. And because of that, I want to give you what I call, what I've said, permission and perspective to realize that not only are you uniquely called and qualified to do the job, but you probably have only scratched the surface of your capabilities. Because as you know, Helen, more as well as anyone, the skills that you need to teach and that most teachers do before lunch are precisely the skills. Get on Google and search CEO jobs, and I promise you, the characteristics they're looking for are what most teachers do on a daily basis. 100%. And so step back and realize, yes, you're doing a hard job that most people can't do, and that you have more. I think it's Daniel Pink, is the three things. You have more mastery, purpose, and autonomy than you realize. And maybe just step back and recognize that. And hopefully in some way that I hope that helps people, even on, especially on a tough day, maybe help them reflect a little bit to realize that they are doing important work.
Totally understand. I love that. And just for anyone listening to us right now, okay, a great teacher doesn't just teach, they create more leaders. And you have the power to create more leaders around you. And if you want to build your skills into growing from educator to CEO, I encourage you to join my free masterclass. If you want to gain clarity, you want to know what is your next step, I believe that this is the right time where you can actually connect with me and we can make a difference in your journey. So thank you so much, Chris, for joining. Thank you for your heart and your message. I believe that it blessed many people listening to us. I appreciate you.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to this episode, and make sure you connect with us on Instagram at The Case for Success. Check also my link tree and become an affiliate of the Success Guide for Teens Academy, a program that will empower your school community as a parent, teacher, and high school senior leader. Do not hesitate to reach out, comment, and share. Until then, see you in the next episodes.